Welcome to my YouTube channel, and you have just tuned into the Court of Public Opinion exclusive on YouTube, and it's a special edition. It's a Saturday because there was some disheartening news that came out in the media yesterday. And like I said, I'm a human being. I got emotions like anybody else, and actually personal, and it hurt my heart. It hurt my heart. And if you were under a rock, if you have been paying attention to what's going on, the little attacks that happened in New Orleans and Las Vegas, we're going to have a conversation about that. But there was an incident a couple when an inmate by the name of Robert Brooks, actually was unalived in custody in the Marcy prison. And there's a viral video that came out, and a viral video where individuals were kicking and stomping a inmate that they had in custody, and he perished. Okay, it became fatal. And the first thing came to my mind when I saw the story, I said, this is New York. So the Attorney General, this is her opportunity to, to throw the book at them, to basically set the record straight. But some strange reason, yesterday, the press conference came out, and Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, recused herself. And when I saw that, it broke my heart, because I watched her rise to fame. I watched her doing the Black Lives Matters movement. I watched her, doing the Trump trials, in terms of she prosecuted, trading back, saying, the Attorney General is the top cop and the head lawyer in the state. And I'm sitting back, what she did with Trump. What was it? 36 felonies, to Donald Trump. She would show up in the courtroom right behind him and do press conferences. And she pretty much got a conviction on 36 counts for a former sitting president, now president, on a victimless crime. Let's keep the record straight. On a victimless crime. It was a paper trail. Trump, pumped up his properties, and, Mar-a-Lago is worth $1 billion, and he put up all these properties so he can actually get a loan, to pretty much that substantial rate, so he can actually, make some moves. But apparently he paid off all the loans. There was no, but the brilliance of Letitia James, I'm sitting saying, wow. Let me just see what happens, because when I saw the Trump counts, 36 counts, and, he's not in jail, but to get a conviction, that was her setting the record straight when it comes to her, her profession. I'm sitting back like, wow, go down in history as the Attorney General of New York. She's going down in history as the individual that prosecuted a former president. And I'm sitting back saying, wow, her legacy is on. Good morning to you. Special edition on a Saturday. And when I saw the incident with the brother who was in custody by the name of Robert Brooks, and I saw the video, it went viral, TMZ, internet, and you could see these officers kicking, punching Robert Brooks, and they used their body cam, and come to find out, they sent him to the hospital and he perished. And I sit back and say, wow, Letitia James is going to get him. Now, for the first time in history, we got a black attorney general who has just pretty much got 36 charges or felony counts, former sitting president who is now president-elect. So this is the opportunity for the sister to show that she's down for the cause, for a sister to show, she's, she's a part of the culture, for a sister to show that she's, Black lives really do matter, because the individual was in custody. And when you are in jail or in custody, you are under the protective services of of the prison system. You're supposed to have protective, measures because your life is in their hands. But when something happens like this, it's a wake up call, because hate to give you this breaking news if you did not see it, because I'm saying Letitia just going to handle her business. A brother by the name of Robert Brooks, actually died in the hands of, the correctionals. They beat him, they kicked him, they did all of these things. And I'm sitting back saying, James is going to get him. But come to find out, Letitia James recused herself in the case of this fatal prison beating. And when I say recused herself, she basically said that she's not going to be the prosecutor. Okay, she could prosecute Trump on a victimless crime on paper, paper trail. But when it comes, real situations like George Floyd, Rodney King and police beatings, this is an opportunity to basically end that culture and go down in history as the champion, the change when it comes to our penal codes, when it comes to our policing. And you would think something like this would happen in the 40s and 50s in the South, but this is in the state of New York. She accused herself. I said, wow, it's either, because like think about it. You could go ahead. We're going to have a conversation. I'm going to be in the chat because you guys are the jury. Okay, this is the court of public opinion. As I asked myself, why would an attorney general recuse themselves from a situation like this? Number one, guilty by association, because the attorney general pretty much the top cop of the state. And Kamala Harris was the attorney general of California. And she worked hand in hand, as a defense attorney, as a public defender. Then she moved to a prosecutor, a DA, and then she became the attorney general. And her record, it basically is not stellar, but her record is the fact that she, as a prosecutor, is on the side of law enforcement. So I'm sitting back saying, why would Letitia James recuse herself? Because she's on the side of law enforcement. So number one, guilty by association. Number two, he condones this behavior, because I'm sure without a shadow of a doubt, if the brother Robert Brooks had not died, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But I'm sure that the correctional office is a common practice. I'm sure that because all of a sudden we just start kicking and beating him and he's a one and done situation. No, this is a common practice. And I'm sure without a shadow of a doubt, James and her office are greatly aware about it. They know the ins and outs and in. And when I did a little deep dive into it, all four officers have open cases against them with no punishment, no suspension, no corrective actions, no write-ups. These four individuals, all four have priors, but this time they went a little too far. So Robert Brooks is on his way to being a martyr. And when I say a martyr, this is a significant situation to where the prison system is looked into, their practice. And then it hurts my heart to know in 2024 that the prison system is a form of slavery. And the third point that I want to make as to why she recused herself is because she probably believes that she's not going to get a conviction. Boom. He's not going to get a conviction. And that's crazy. We saw what we saw with our eyes. We seen the kicking. We seen all of this. And now that the person has died, she recuses herself because she believes and she knows that she's not going to get a conviction. Now, in this particular case, I guarantee you the autopsy is going to come back. This is the court of public opinion. Okay, you guys are the jury. So put, your comments in the comments and I'll get to them, after, my reaction. But in the sense of, I see how the defense, the prosecution side, she's not on the side of the prosecution. She'll be on the side of defense. So I guarantee you with the defense, oh, Robert Brooks suffered, he didn't die from the beating. He died from, he had a prior heart situation, or he had some particular, health issue that led to the cause of death, because the coroner's office, the public defenders, the DA, the prosecutor, they all work on the same side. And this is why, in these days and times in our lifetime, that we got to have these conversations, separate ourselves. Because when you look up Letitia James, she's a Democrat. I'm not saying anything is wrong with any Democrat, but she was elected to do Democratic issues. She prosecuted Trump, in which he was able to, leave New York, jump on the plane with his name in it, and fly to a house called Mar-a-Lago after 36 counts. And then you get an individual, where the data is there, the evidence is there, but for some strange reason, she make an educated decision and decide that she is not going to prosecute and recuses herself. But she is a, Democratic Party. Okay. She went to Howard University Law School. So she's a part of the bourgeoisie. I'm sure she's a soror or something, because we got to understand all black folk and kinfolk. These are black faces in high places. And pretty much when I saw the press conference, she was pretty much nervous. She was reading, meaning she did not have a prepared statement. Just like I'm talking to you right now. I could have a conversation and pretty much just have some bullet points and talk. But if I'm just reading off of a teleprompter or reading something, that means somebody told me what to do. So we have the Attorney General of the state of New York literally being prostituted by higher powers. And step down because she wanted to step down. Because from a moral perspective, as a sister, this would have been a case where she literally throws the book at these 4 white correctional officers, and then they're reckoning or a cleansing of the correctional system as we fight for constitutional amendment to end mass incarceration. But clearly these are practices that are legal, because where have in American history where individuals were prosecuted or convicted for killing or unaliving a slave? It has never. And based on our Constitution that's still on the books in 2025, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude unless criminalized. Stop right there. All criminal people that are in jail are under the slave codes. They're forced to do involuntary servitude. They're forced to live in inhumane situations. And obviously, you can get unalived or killed by correctional, and the Attorney General won't even prosecute you. This is the public opinion. This is the court of public opinion. Now, the court of public opinion is undefeated because we're not controlled by a teleprompter or mainstream media. OK, we have an opinion. We talk about it. And this situation needs to be talked about. This is why I'm doing a special edition on a Saturday. When have you seen me, go live on? It hasn't happened. OK, but this situation where the Attorney General of New York recuses herself because clearly she either aid and abets the operation or the practices of the correctional system. She's guilty by association. Or C, she knows that she's not going to get a conviction. About that. Think about that. And we saw what we saw. But like these people are pretty good. So the prosecution's office that's going to defend the 4 officers, I guarantee you, all it takes is somebody in a high place, because it's not flesh and blood. It's powers, principalities, evildoers in high places. All they got to do, somebody's got to make a call and pretty much figure this thing out. Judges, clearly they got the Attorney General, the DA when it comes to Alvin Bragg. These are just literally high priced prostitutes. And I have to say this because when you're means by definition, not that you're selling yourself for sex, but that somebody telling you to do what you don't want to do, but you do it just because they have the power. Because when Kamala Harris said on the campaign trail, her hand, because it's about to check writers and not the voters, the check writers put Letitia James in charge. And the check writers have told her to stand down because they are about to run some type of shim-sham. They're about to run some game. And the brother that got unalived or killed, Mr. Robert Brooks, he's, like I said, he can either be or he can actually just go away, because the New York Attorney General recuses herself from the beating death of a Marcy inmate by the name of Robert Brooks. And that's something that I really could not understand. Like I said, it hurt my heart, because like I said, if Black Lives really matters, 4 white correctional officers that pretty much beat this man to death. You are a black attorney general who was defund the police. She was down with the Black Lives Matters movement. It was nothing but a bait and switch. It was nothing but a bait and switch. So now you got an opportunity to prosecute 4 law enforcement officers that killed a black man in 2024. And now we're in 2025. You decided that you don't want nothing to do with the case. Either you're guilty by association. When I say that, and the common practices. And like I said, I took a deep dive and saw that all of the officers that's involved in the killing of Robert Brooks have open cases against them. So meaning you aided the death of Robert Brooks. So now it's starting to make sense. And when you talk about RICO, racketeering, influence, corruption organization, they went out there and, prosecute rappers in Atlanta by another black female, Fonnie Willis, who all of the individuals involved in the RICO case either pled out, was not guilty. So they put a RICO on some rappers because lyrics. But what about this? What about this situation? This checks all the boxes of racketeering, influence of a corruption organization at the highest level. And this is why we as a people got to separate ourselves from this 2-party system. More importantly, separate ourselves from the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party, James, is a Democratic superstar, is the party of the serpent. It all, like I said, from a biblical perspective, Eve, as the woman, was deceived by the serpent. The serpent used Eve to trick up and deceive Adam, which is the man. Now that we figured this out, the black man, men in general, or people who believe, are leaving the party and becoming nonpartisan independents and are making sure they're far away from the woman, because she represents the serpent. And in this case, the serpent is the Democratic Party, because this is a Democratic superstar that decided to recuse herself of a case that could have been the case of all ages that would actually stop the concept or stop the practice of slavery prison, because this is what it is. Because most of the times when lawyers, recuse themselves, or lawyers decide not to take a case, is because they don't believe that they have all the factors to win the case. And in this particular case, if she don't think this case, then it must means that some big time, attorney was going to call her out on her business, going to call out the practices of the correctional system in which she's in charge of. She's the top in the state of New York. Talk about the 4 open cases on the 4 officers that has been prosecuted or that has been charged with the death of Robert Brooks. So let's go ahead and recuse myself. So in this case, Black lives do not matter. Black lives was a joke. Defund the police was a joke. All they did was the bait and switch. That's all they did. That's all they did was the switch. It is what it is. So what is your thoughts on the this episode of the Court of Public Opinion of the New York Attorney General recusing herself from a case in terms of the death of prison inmate in custody, Robert Brooks. It is what it is. Think about it. Think about it. What is it? Because I'm about to get in these comments. Drink me a little coffee. I got my waves hooked up today. Yeah. Because I see somebody making comments, and more than likely he's a homosexual. No doubt. But it is what it is, because that's that homosexual energy. So what's happening? What's happening? Let me see here. So I guess I got a lot of nephews out there, because I'm being referred to as Unc. Let me see here. Some random guy speaks. Now, the random guy speaks, says she don't have nothing. You know, I bet I bet they don't go to jail and they're going to get through this case. I can't disagree with you right now, because I got a strange feeling, bro, that this is, like I said, we take 10 steps forward and then, things like this happen, and it just shows us that we didn't get no progress at all. So when we really look at these situations and, have to, try to figure it out, this is heartbreaking, because, like I said, for the attorney general to step down, that's, strike number one. OK, that's a good indication that these individuals might get off, because the call is going to be made from the top, because they're not ready to change the criminal justice system. And this is why we got to separate ourselves as human beings from the Democratic Party and brand ourselves as nonpartisan independents, and have some type of presidential and congressional right as nonpartisans, because never in American history have we ever done, because the black race sold its soul to the party of the serpent in the 60s. They basically made a decision: since we'll be willing to let you buy a house, we'll be willing to let you vote, and we'll be willing to let you sit at the table and eat with white folks, then you guys got to just be a part of us and do what you're told. And in 2025, we have an attorney general that has an opportunity to set the record straight, in terms of, for white correctional officers for killing a black inmate. Some decision that she's not going to prosecute. And she's not going to participate and go ahead and put it somewhere else, because more than likely, number one, she's aiding and abetting the operation, because she's well aware of the practices of the correctional system, as 4 of the individuals who are being charged with this crime has open cases in her office. So she knows about these common practices, and that's sickening. And that's sad. That's sickening. That's sad. Let me see here. Somebody said Lions going to win the Super Bowl. We'll see. And they having a conversation in the chat. Okay, yeah, that cop got, saying, let me see here. What we got? Okay, let me see here, bro. Let me see here. I got some trolls that I'm going to deal with right now. Bro, got plenty baby oil. Man, that's Vaseline. I don't need no baby oil. And I'm a 53, about to be a 54-year-old man. So you might want to, check yourself, youngster. OK. And like I said, my teeth, he said my teeth are yellow. So tell me, is my teeth are yellow? Look at that beautiful smile. My teeth are white. OK. And only, like I said, the Democrat and the homosexual, because these are the only individuals that, have these, that does things like this, because we over here have a serious, educated conversation and he's trolling. And it is what it is. It is what it is. So let me see here. Now, Trump 2024. Absolutely. We dodged the bullet. But back to at hand. We got to understand what we're dealing with. We got to understand. Now, are we going to fall for the okie doke? Are we going to continue to practice what we call insanity and do the same thing, expecting a different outcome? Or are we going to rise above and hold everybody accountable? These are individuals that we put in office. These are individuals that has won elections. And now we're looking at a situation where the attorney general decides to step down. So what are we going to do? And then think about, on the level of what happened in New Orleans and what happened in Vegas. Now, in Las Vegas, that was a lone wolf. That's been cleared up, because he had a letter. He had some text messages. He pretty much said the individual who blew up the truck at Trump Hospital, this is the court of public opinion, who blew up the fiber truck. He basically said that, things like this, Americans typically respond to situations like this. He said America is going to, going down. And he wanted to use this situation to wake a lot of people up, in which he did. And he basically, based on the evidence at hand and surveillance tapes and camera, this was a long situation. And he pretty much, we'll have a conversation and talk about that. But the situation, and this is the court of public opinion, the situation in New Orleans, the individual that killed 15 people on Bourbon Street, basically he used a truck to just plow over people. And I'm sure you guys seen the videos. He used a firearm and he was shooting people at the same time. And come to find out, he had an ISIS flag on his truck. And come to find out that he recently joined ISIS. But when they did the press conference, or when I watched the press conference, I basically saw that they said that he operated alone. So if you had an ISIS flag tied to the vehicle that you killed 14 people and injured over 35, if you just recently joined ISIS, how can you determine or say that this is an isolated event? Think about that. How can you do or say that? Think about that. Because we just had a situation in Atlanta, District Attorney Fonnie Willis charging a RICO to YSL, which is Yugs, homies, and their little street gang, and charge them with a RICO because of the association, and then use the music to charge, but did not get a conviction. But this particular case, he joined ISIS. So if an individual joined a gang, let's say if he joined the Crips or a Blood set, and then went and, killed multiple people, had his flag banging, I'm sure some way they're going to do a press conference. Yes, this was an initiation to the gang. He just recently joined the Bloods. He just recently joined the Crips. He just recently joined, the Slim Thug, Slim Life gang. And he went out and did the work of, of his gang. And then they'll go after the individuals involved. So why is it that this situation, they're not connecting the dots? He just joined ISIS, and I'm talking about this court of public opinion. I'm talking about the situation in Louisiana on Bourbon Street in New Orleans. He just joined ISIS. Okay. He had an ISIS flag, and you don't want to connect him to ISIS. This is the craziest thing ever. So this is the world that we live in. And this is why there cannot be a duopoly or a two-tier government. Because when Trump was in office, he basically got rid of ISIS. And now that the Biden administration has, opened, earmarked or gave access to Iran to $6 billion. Since the Biden administration left Afghanistan, which they left a base, they left all the ammunition. And then all of a sudden, you're starting to see the rise of terror around the world. So if a Army veteran, and this person was in the Army, he was in Fort Bragg and was an American citizen, and somehow, some way, he joined the terrorist organization ISIS and went and committed a terrorist attack in the name of himself. Think about that. This is the craziest thing ever. So when you really, look at it, it's like when you're dealing with a two-tier government, there is no oversight. There's no accountability. They could just say whatever they say, and we're supposed to just say, oh, okay, this is why, I started the court of public opinion, so we can have an actual conversation about these things, because we cannot continue to allow these things to, to play out. We've seen this dance before, and the only thing that could be different right now is that a large group of American citizens who believe in this country, red-blooded Americans who accept this Constitution and want to hold accountability to all the parties at hand. For them to sit back and say that the individual in New Orleans operated as a lone wolf and basically go on record under the same press conference, he just recently joined ISIS, he had an ISIS flag. That's a RICO. So you telling me ISIS didn't make that call, but you're willing to prosecute rappers on RICO charges because it's in the music? But you got a situation where you have 15 deaths and 35 individuals hospitalized, and you're not going to connect the dots, or you're not going to go after the influence? Because racketeering, it's think about it. The I is for influence. So he was not influenced by the gang or the terrorist organization that he has recently joined, according to your press conference. Think about it. It's a corrupt organization, a national terrorist organization that committed a terrorist act on American soil by one of their cronies. And we're not going to, and then as I'm thinking about it, maybe it's a need to know situation. Maybe it's a need to know situation. Maybe they're telling us this so, ISIS could sit back, but they're going to run some operations behind. So I'm going to have to give them that. But you got to connect the dots. You got to connect the dots. You putting RICO cases on rappers, but this particular guy committed one of the most heinous and up to date, the worst terror attack in 2025. And he just recently joined the terrorist organization, the terrorist gang called ISIS, had an ISIS flag, and you got evidence that he just recently joined, and you're not going to connect the dots or go after the gang. I mean, come on, man. This is why we got to stand up and do what we got to do as American people and separate ourselves from this two-party system, from this duopoly, because the Democratic Party will never be the same again. If we could get rid of the Democratic Party, and I'm not saying switch to being a Republican. Okay, I've been a lifelong Democrat, but for somehow, some way, I've been delivered from that burning house. I have separated myself from the party of the serpent, because the party of the serpent invests in the women and the homosexuals. The women and the homosexuals, because they are the gatekeepers. They are the trolls. They are the individuals that got to try to make sure that, we don't do what we need to do, because at the end of the day, they have no love for themselves. And that's what it all boils down to. That's what it all boils down to. So we got to figure this thing out. We got to understand that, it's a new day. OK, because when I read that Constitution, it says domestic tranquility, meaning we're supposed to have tranquility here in the United States. And we got to end racism, because we got to just have one race in this nation, and that's the human race. We got to show love amongst each other. We got to do what we got to do as American people. We got to understand that, our best interest is for this country to be great. I know they got the MAGA movement, Make America Great Again, but I'm going to say Make America Great. Stop right there, because America has been great, to a certain group of people, but has America been great to everybody? We can't have, open southern borders. We can't be funding, mass incarceration and earmarking $114,000 for prison inmates and only using $14,000 to educate. And the only reason we're doing that is because of the 13th Amendment. Neither slavery nor involuntary servitude unless criminalized. Because this is why Letitia James recused herself, because I'm got a strange feeling that there will not be a conviction when it comes to the death of the inmate Robert Brooks by the hands of those 4 white correctional officers. I got a feeling, because I have not seen in American history where, anybody got in trouble for hurting a slave. And based on the Constitution, if you are incarcerated, you are a slave. It is what it is. It is what it is. And somebody put in the comments, I'm not going to spend my life being a color. Okay. But then your moral turpitude has to be on the level. You know, you have to walk different, talk different. But regardless of color you are, and regardless of what you say or what you think, we see color. Soon as I see a white person, that's a white person. I see a Latino, hey, that's a Latino, that's a Mexican. Okay, I see Fat Joe, that's a green-eyed white man. Pun intended, because we got smoke for Fat Joe. When I see a brother, I see a brother. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, I studied Dr. King my whole life, you know, and we're supposed to be judged off the content of our character. Because when this particular situation happened in the Marcy prison, all I saw and all you saw, regardless if you believe it or not, 4 white correctional officers beating a black inmate to death. When we saw George Floyd, that was a black man getting killed by police officers. And Derek Chauvin's in prison right now for murder. When you look at the 60s, you see the water hoses, it's black and white. It's white people going after black people. So when individuals say that they don't see color, that's one of the biggest lies known to man, and that's a deception. Okay, so let's be honest with ourselves, because the only way things won't get right is because of we keep on reliving history. Okay, Joe Biden's campaign was Build Back Better, meaning let's tear down everything and build it back the way it was. And let's talk about the progress that we had in the midst of. Think about that. You know, we've been practicing insanity. This is why we can be hostage to a 2-party system. This is why we got to be nonpartisan independence that has congressional oversight as well as presidential oversight. It can't be the Democrats versus Republicans. It got to be the federal government versus the people. And if we understand this, we can, you know, have so much progress in the next 4 years. We got to understand. And somebody put, you know, milk is $8. Look at which party is in charge that did that. And this is why when they say, oh, you guys didn't vote for Kamala Harris because of, no, it was the economy. And the Democrats got to figure that out. And this is why, you know, black women has decided to stand down, because they realize that they've been used by the party of the serpent. Because if, like I said, all starts in the garden, Adam was minding his own business until Eve got deceived by that serpent and offered him something that he couldn't refuse. So this is why we're realizing in today's time that for us to be on the same sheet of music, you know, we got to come together as a people. OK, and we got to come to a position to where, you know, we can actually change the ecosystem where we don't see color. We got to change the ecosystem where we can come together as one. We got to change the ecosystem for where everybody has their own lane, because there's no traffic in your lane, and everybody will get their necessities, you know, their essential things they need to survive and to be successful. And the only way we could do this is right the wrongs of the past. That's the only way we could do this. You know, somebody put in the comments, entertainment is the left wing or right wing live stream. OK, this is the heart. We're not a left wing. We're not a right wing. We're the body of the bird and can survive without either wing. OK, we're moderates. We're what we call humanitarians. OK, because I will be getting my position in the Trump administration as an independent, as a nonpartisan independent on Inauguration Day. And I'm going to be in charge of Black American and human affairs. Black American and human affairs. We're all human beings. Okay? Make a party of technocrats. Well, I'm going to just go ahead and say this. Democrat and Republican is not, you know, just the only thing we could do, because Mike Johnson was sworn in as the Speaker of the House. And if you did not know, the Speaker of the House is an awful man in Washington, and he classified himself as a theocrat. And I classify myself as a theocrat, a Democrat, demo ruled by the devil. because the Latin root word for demo is demon diablo. The word crat means to rule or rule by. Theo means God. Crat means to rule or rule by. So a theocrat is a praying politician. A theocrat is an individual who believes in God's first. A theocrat is individuals that will put humanitarian work before the check writers or the powerful evildoers in high places that funds all these operations. And it is what it is. And it is what it is. Let me see here. You're asking the wrong question. Okay, give me a question. Okay, the wing don't matter. Okay, I got you. The wing does not matter. Chop off the right wing, chop off the left wing. Okay, if we're dealing with, you got to go left because two lefts make a right. You got to go right because two rights make a left. Why don't we go straight? And that's biblical. And that's biblical because the path to righteousness is narrow. It's straight way. Okay, just like when you look at the cross got, two horizontal points, a point on the left and a point on the right. But then you have a vertical, and that's us. So I would like I said, you could classify me as a centrist or whatever, but at the end of the day, I'm a humanitarian first. So if a humanitarian get translated to centrist, then it is what it is, because like I said, we can't be Republicans, okay, because of, what's going on, and that's for obvious reasons. And we can't be a Democrat because we cannot continue to support the party of slavery, because the party of slavery will pretty much tell the attorney general to basically accuse herself from a prison inmate beating when that's her job. That should have been a situation where she would pretty much go out there, have a press conference, hang these 4 white correctional officers that killed the black man, Robert Brooks, in custody in the Marcy prison. She should have hung them to dry, because she didn't stop for no press conference to, we're going to prosecute Trump. He lied about the value of Mar-a-Lago. He lied about, all about paperwork. And you went out there and, had press conference after press conference on a victimless crime, 36 felony counts, on guilty charges. But the man walked out of jail and became president of the United States. So this was the get back right here to show the world, and more importantly, show Black America. Okay, because obviously, these black faces in high places, like Compare said, her hands are tied and they can only do what the check writers say. And it is what it is. And it is what it is. So, but let me see here. Humanitarian in real politics, don't be naive. So as a man of God and a believer, so we are dawning on a situation and a path. And let me see here. Himdushu. On that we have never dawned on before. So we got to have faith and we got to believe, because that Constitution says we the people. And if we the people create a coalition of humanitarians, of individuals who love of individuals who love people, individuals who want to end racism, we can and we will. Because if you don't think racism is alive in America, then how can you have 4 white correctional beat Robert Brooks to death in a Marcy jail or Marcy prison, and black district attorney recuses herself? That's racism. That's racism. Because if we didn't have racism, she was conference called them out by name. But since it's a conflict of interest, since she and her office aides in the bed and already knew about the practices, but just this time, a person happens to die and it made the national news. That's the only thing. So what I'm saying is we're doing something that has never been done before. We're operating outside of the Republicans, outside of the Democrats, and we are basically aligning ourselves as nonpartisan independents. And we have the Constitution, which letterhead says, we the people. We the people. It is what it is. So when I say we the people, this is what we do. This is why we dodged the bullet with the Democratic Party. This is why the chickens are coming home to roost. This is why the entertainment, the rap industry, all of these things are being closed right now because this is what we call the reckoning. And this is when, there's a regime change because people of righteousness will become the people of power because they've invested in these individuals that they have over. The P. Diddy's, the Jay-Z's, and all of these individuals that's catching sentence right now and that's locked up and that's being charged with all these heinous crimes and all of these situations that's going on because they pretty much eat these individuals, the Will Smiths, and, made these people larger than life, but they don't really, have nothing to do with anything outside of being rich because they sold their souls to the devil. And more importantly, like Letitia James, they cut with the party of the serpent. And, it is what it is. It is what it is. Let me see here. Let me see. It was also racism when he attacked and stabbed in his girlfriend in jail in the first place. Well, the individual, Robert Brooks, and let me see here, Mighty Wolf, is in jail, was in jail on a case where he did stab his girlfriend. Okay. So when you commit a crime and you go to prison, he's paying the time for the crime. He did the crime and he's doing the time, but he's an inmate. He's in jail. He's not, committing another, felonious situation. He's in custody in the jail system. Okay. Two wrongs don't make a right. So regardless of a person is in jail for, regardless, okay, you're in the custody of the state if it's a state situation. You're in the custody of the federal situation, of the feds if it's a federal case. You're in the custody of a municipal if it's localized city, jail, or county. So once you are incarcerated, correctional officers, they're called correctional officers who's supposed to correct the behavior, are responsible for you. So two wrongs don't make a right. Now, if he had got stabbed by a prisoner in jail, something like that, they call that street justice. I understand. But when you have 4 white correctional officers stump out this man to death, that's a crime that they have committed. So we got to understand that. Two wrongs don't make a right. Two wrongs don't make a right. They pretty much are responsible for the inmates. They're responsible. This is why they call it the correctional system, because they're supposed to be correcting behavior of these criminals. So two wrongs don't make a right. So does him being incarcerated or in jail for murder, by killing or stabbing a friend to death, does that mean that 4 white men on tape, with their body cameras on, get an opportunity to stump him out and kill him? What country are we living in? Think about that. Think about all the other acts that these individuals have committed. Because I saw, and I took a deep dive, and Letitia James said that all 4 of the officers that's being charged with the killing of Robert Brooks have open cases in my office. Guilty by association. They know the practices, and based on a prosecutor or an attorney for the defendant, attorney for Robert Brooks' case could basically show a pattern, okay, and could find the state liable. And this is why I thought that Fonnie Willis will step up and change the game and prosecute these individuals, put them on public display to show them that any correctional officer or anybody that has a desire to get in law enforcement, this will not be accepted under my watch. But she stepped down. But she stepped up on that paper case with Donald Trump. So I'm saying it is what it is. It is what it is. And now, Swan, when the wicked grow like grass and the unrighteous prosper, it is that may be destroyed. Psalms 92:7. Today is Saturday, and I appreciate it. It's the Sabbath. We're going to keep it holy. And you are right, because anything that goes in this world, we can find it in that Bible. And this is why it hurts more when there's non-believers who don't understand, and they take the stories out of context and, make them to what they want to make them to justify why they don't believe, just so they can actually be assholes, just so they could be trolls, just so they could be homosexuals or transgenders or practice anything or any rudiment that goes against God. But there has to be a coalition of righteous individuals, because Christ paid the price on that cross. And whatever we did in our lives, all we got to do is repent, and he forgives us, and turn away from our wicked ways and do what's right by people. And this is why, I do the court of public opinion. This is why we created A Better Black America, which is a movement for a better America for all. Because if the black community is championed, if the black community stops the kill culture, okay, it controls the music and start putting good vibes like they had back in the 60s, loving each other again, and grow the black nuclear family, invest in education, turn our hoods and barrios and sets into communities, thriving communities that recycles its dollars, and end poverty and crime, the world will be a better place. And this is why I created A Better Black America. Got a website, abetterblackAmerica.com, and I will be working, in terms of presidential oversight as a nonpartisan independent body. And we're going to work with the Trump administration or whatever administrations that will be in office moving forward to do what's right by the people. Because for the first time in our lives, we got to people by the people, because we realize that the Democratic Party is the party of the serpent, and it is anti-American, and it is anti-God. And somebody said, how you planning to doing all stuff? Well, this seed was planted in 2016. And it has grown beyond your imagination. And these things, these think tanks, these conversations that we've been having, over the last several years have finally, caught up, and now is ready for change. Because like I said, we got everything that we need to do this. We already in operation. We're already moving forward. And after the inauguration, you're going to see the rollout. We're going to make, our people proud. And when I say our people, I mean American people, because we are really wanted it to be one race. That's the human race, because we understand this country. Our ancestors built this country on free labor. Free labor. And now it's time for the prodigal sons and daughters to participate, because we thought the Congressional Black Caucus back. We thought the NAACP had our back, and somebody said no color, but the NAACP stands for National Association for Colored People. The Congressional Black Caucus is a thing. The black community is a thing. So when you say no color, we got to figure this thing out. And if we champion the black community, then we can operate in no color, because my white constituents or my white brothers, we have conversations and heated debates, because for them, it's about class. And I understand that. So when somebody says, why big crybabies? No, we got to right the wrongs of the past. Because if the person who said that, if your father, grandfather, or great grandfather played a major part, in this, in the making of this country, I'm sure, you would be pretty much waiting for your inheritance. Because if you look at the history, every culture, the Jewish people in the Holocaust, they got reparations in the United States, and Holocaust wasn't even here. Hitler was killing the Semites because they're not white. Because if you look up the Latin word semi, it's pretty much partial. OK, and we can have that conversation. And then with the Chinese and Japanese, they was put in concentration camps, during World War I and World War II, and they got broke off as well. There's been 32 situations that the United States government has paid reparations to a group of people. And the only people that they have not paid off is the black people. And we have documentation that Abraham Lincoln paid $8 million back in 1865 for the Freedmen's Bank to create, a banking system to give lending and to give funding to newly freed slaves for business opportunities, to buy homes, things of that nature. But after the assassination, Otis Howard was the commissioner, and he became the name of Howard University. OK, and then that money has been sitting in the treasury for umpteen years. And now when you look at it with interest, you're talking about in the form of trillions of dollars. And like I said, it's something that has to be done. OK, it's a promissory note, and that promise was not kept. And the only way that this country is going to calibrate itself, because you cannot skip a generation and expect it to be right, is for my generation, which is X, which is an unknown factor, which is going to equal freedom and liberation for this nation. And we're going to do what we need to do and figure this thing out. OK, so reparations are not a real solution. Y'all aren't going to change because of a paycheck. OK, well, it's not like a, break people off. We understand that. We understand that. We're talking about, creating the equities and investing in communities of color to wean us off of the, being desolate, the poverty, the drugs. So we got to have this conversation, and I'm open. So hit the subscription, hit the notification, because Henry of the Revolution, we can have these conversations on what we can actually do to make sure we just don't put paychecks, because we saw what the stimulus did. These fools went crazy. OK, all they did was make gold interest go high, or gold stock go high, the high end vehicles, the whole nine. But as a people, we're talking about, building a Black American consulate, having the same sovereignty laws and respect that the Native Americans have. It's deeper than we can imagine. And we got to have this conversation. OK, and I appreciate the comment, And somebody said, bro, you're literally describing DEI. And if you scramble those numbers, that's die. OK, so no, I'm not. No. I'm not doing diversity, equity and inclusion. OK, that diversity and equity inclusion was just pretty much the Democrats' way to putting women and homosexuals in positions of power to destroy this nation. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, development, community development, investing in, the major cities that has, went to, rock bottom when it comes to crime, rock bottom when it comes to poverty, just investing in these communities, because when you see what happens to Black individuals, we get successful and then we move outside of the community. Why not invest in our communities, change the crime rate in our communities, beautify our communities, and be assets versus liabilities? Because for this country to continue the way that it is, it need a bottom class, it needs sacrificial lambs to pretty much continue to, keep us on this construct or keep us on this path of destruction, because it's nothing but a form of genocide. OK, so when I take a deep dive in history, and as being a historian and a constitutionalist, I really understand the mistakes that was made. And all we're doing is saying, let's go back, identify the mistakes that were made and fix them, because this is why America is not great. Just like even Obama, the issues that I do have with him. One thing that I do respect is the fact is when he was president and he was leaving, he basically said, start a coalition. America got a lot of work. OK, and we're talking about the work of the past, the work of Dr. King, the work of the civil rights movement, things where we got tripped up because we was cool, before integration, because integration destroyed anything that we had. And somebody Black Wall Street in the comments, and that's one of them. OK, by us integrating Major League Baseball to destroy our baseball leagues, by us integrating into the Democratic Party, destroyed Blackness as a whole. We became African American. They made us an ethnicity, and they put us in the same pot of gumbo with the Women's Live organization, which is white women, with the Planned Parenthood organization, which is Eugenics Society, and Margaret Sanger killing babies. They put us in the same pot as the LGBTQ Elemental Peace Society. They put us in the same spot with all the immigrants, and now they just stir it up. And the only way the minority groups work is because of the connection with the Black community. So now that we want to get out of that crab bucket, and see what we can do to add to this country, because John F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country could do for you, but what you could do for your country, because we want to be assets and not liabilities, because we know the history of the Democratic Party and we know the play that they made, because I mean Hitler and the Semites, mainly the semi-white people, they came to this country, assimilated as whites, changed their names to Jewish people, invest in the Democratic Party, and they're pretty much aiding and abetting the operation right now. But this is why we got to wake up, and this is why we got to figure that out. And that is not an example of diversity, equity, inclusion. Diversity and equity inclusion is pretty much telling white folks that we got 100 positions, but we got to give 5 to black people and 2 to homosexuals. That's DEI. That ain't nothing but affirmative actions like they had in the 80s. Think about it. That's DEI. We're talking about development. OK, we want to have our own operations. OK, we want our communities to thrive just like the next community or the suburbs. That's what this is all about. We don't want to be a part of what you got going on. We don't want to go to work for you. OK, because Claudine Gay was a DEI hire at Harvard University. And what did she do? In 6 months resigned. OK, because they used her to put in laws and legislation on a elitist level in the system. And what did she do? Have to walk away. It was an epic fail. So we don't want to be a part of what they got going on. That's DEI. OK, which is affirmative action. We want to develop our own. And if the government don't want to aid and abet or assist, then we're just really going to do it ourselves. We're just going to do it ourselves. It is what it is. So we just want to be able to focus, so the answer, is segregation. It's not segregation. It's being independent and developing who we are, because desegregation destroyed the black community. So if it's segregation, it could be a form of it, but it will be an asset and not a liability. So we won't be segregating ourselves to fight against America. We'll be segregating ourselves to lessen, the 20 worst Democratic cities in America. OK, because 18 out of the 20 are ran by Democrats. Las Vegas just flipped to independent, and Stockton, California flipped to Republican. So 18 of the worst cities in America are Democratic cities, and there are black cities. We want to fix that. So we pretty much want to right the wrongs of the past and fix the problem, where we be at. OK, and my man, in terms of sugarcoat, it's not sugarcoating. It's pretty much saying, we don't want your help, but we'll take your assistance because we have not had the ability to develop. We don't have the system has made sure that we don't develop. This is why they pump the hoods up in cities with drugs, liquor stores, back in the 60s, the acids, the LSD, the drugs and all of that, because a sober mind is a dangerous mind. And they understand that. But today's keeper, which is women and homosexuals, they're not the same gatekeepers as yesterday. We don't have to worry about the water hosing. We don't have to worry about, the bombings. We don't have to worry about law enforcement like that. We get an opportunity to figure this thing out. So we want to see if we can fly. We want to see if we thrive. We want an opportunity, because like I said, if we've been the subordinates this whole time and we want to branch off and start our own nations and start our own corporations, that's not DEI. Not DEI. That's respect. And that's all we want. So at the end of the day, you could call it what you want to call it. We just want respect. So with that being said, man, it is what it is. I love y'all. I appreciate you. And you can watch this because a troll jumped in, and I did an amazing job of keeping it 100. And that's my sign to go, because the devil is a lie. You know, my phone's starting to ring. So with that being said, man, y'all on Saturday, and you know, it is what it is. And thanks for tuning in to the Court of Public Opinion. So you have a great day. Peace out.